All right, today we're diving into the really chilling legend of a remote village called Bairavpur. It's a place that was haunted by a single, terrifying sound. We're going to break down the events, look at the witness accounts, and explore the questions that still linger. Think of it as a case study in how fear itself can become the monster.
So, let's set the scene. Bairavpur is way out there, isolated, and as this quote says, the place had become desolate. A sense of dread just hangs in the air, especially after sunset. And at the heart of it all is this crumbling old mansion, a haveli, that the locals are so afraid of they won't even walk past it in the dark.
The whole mystery really revolves around this one mansion. For years, villagers whispered about strange feelings, of being watched, of weird sounds. But it was one sound, just one specific sound, that turned a local ghost story into a full-blown wave of terror that gripped the entire community.
And this is the word you need to know, the ahat. In Hindi, it literally just means the sound of a footstep. But in Bairavpur, it meant something so much more terrifying. It was the sound of footsteps when no one was there, an invisible presence stalking the lanes. To really get why this was so scary, you have to hear from the people who actually encountered it.
You know, a good ghost story is only as scary as its witnesses. And in this case, the stories from Bairavpur are just chillingly consistent. So let's look at 3 key encounters that show how this thing started to get more and more aggressive.
First up, we have an outsider, a woman named Reena. She was just visiting friends in the village, and she didn't believe in any of the local superstitions. So, of course, she gets dared to go into the dreaded haveli at night. And, well, her skepticism, it didn't last very long. So picture this. She's inside, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. At first, she thinks her friends are just trying to prank her, making noises. But then she sees it, clear as day, a second shadow on the wall, moving all by itself. And that's when she heard it for the first time, that slow, steady sound of footsteps, getting closer. She ran, obviously, but that encounter was just the beginning for her.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, simple solution, just stay out of the creepy mansion. But our next victim, a local barber named Raghu, proves it wasn't that easy. His encounter shows that whatever this thing was, it wasn't staying inside the Haveli's walls anymore.
Raghu was walking home late one night and just got this feeling he was being followed. The footsteps behind him matched his pace perfectly. When he walked faster, they walked faster. Then, this white, shadowy figure just appeared right in front of him. Its eyes were glowing, and it spoke to him. It told him his time was up. The next day, poor Raghu was found completely out of his mind, just repeating over and over that the ahat was coming for him.
This next case is huge because of who it happened to. Anirudh was the village schoolmaster. He was a man of logic, of reason. He publicly called the ghost stories nothing more than superstition. He was the town's biggest skeptic. He was walking past the haveli one evening, and he heard the sound of heavy boots right behind him. He spun around, nothing there. He tried to rationalize it, wind, an animal, whatever. But then an icy cold whisper came from right beside his ear, saying, "You won't be able to escape." And just like that, the village skeptic became a terrified believer.
So let's connect the dots here. We've got a visitor, a local tradesman, and a respected intellectual. The attacks are all different and intensely personal. A shadow, a full-on apparition, a disembodied voice. And you see the escalation, right? It's getting more direct, more hostile. The ahat wasn't just a spooky story anymore. It was an active threat, and the fear was spreading like wildfire.
This is where the story takes a turn. The village is paralyzed by fear, but a small group of people decides they've had enough of hiding. They have to face this thing head-on and find out what's really going on.
So, our little ghost hunting team comes together. You've got Reena, the first victim, you've got Anirudh, the skeptic who's now a believer, and they're joined by Arvind, a police officer sent to investigate all the panic. At midnight, they go into the haveli, and deep inside, they find this old, rusted iron door leading down to a basement. And down they go.
Down in that cold, damp basement, a place sealed off from the world, they finally find the source of it all. This is the moment a crime that was buried for 100 years finally comes to light, and they learn the true origin of the ahat.
The very first thing they see down there is just absolutely chilling. There's a message scrawled on the stone wall, and it looks like it was written in dried blood. It's the final, desperate words of whoever was trapped down there. And the message is a curse. A direct warning. It explicitly says that hearing the footsteps, the ahat, is a death sentence. This confirms the villagers' absolute worst fears. This isn't just a haunting, it's a fatal curse. But who wrote it? And then,
a ghostly figure appears and tells them her story. Her name was Lolita. A century earlier, her own husband buried her alive in that very basement just to steal her inheritance. Her dying screams went unheard. Her frantic footsteps trying to escape, that became the eternal curse. The Ahat is the echo of her own murder.
Okay, so, mystery solved. They know the origin. The villagers, in a desperate move, burn the entire Haveli to the ground. They're hoping that by destroying the house, they'll finally set Lolita's spirit free. But here's the twist. They solved the mystery, but they didn't end the haunting.
See, you have this stark contrast. On one side, you have the villagers' hope. They burned the mansion, they said their prayers, they truly believed the curse was broken. But the reality was so much grimmer. The Ahat was never tied to the building, it was tied to the people who heard it. They destroyed the source, sure, but the terror itself had already escaped.
This timeline really lays out the false hope. The Haveli is burned to ashes. For one night, there's peace. But just a few days later, Rena, the person who started this whole thing, is in her own room, far away from the ruins, and she hears it again. That slow, unmistakable sound of footsteps.
And this is the final, terrifying takeaway of the whole story. Everyone thought they were dealing with a typical haunting, a ghost stuck in a house. But they were wrong. The Ahat isn't just a ghost, it's a curse that latches onto you. It's a shadow that once it finds you, might never, ever let you go.
So we're left with this really unsettling question. What is the Ahat really? Is it the actual spirit of Lolita, still seeking revenge? Is it a kind of automatic curse she left behind? Or is it something even scarier, the idea of fear itself, a seed planted in your mind that haunts you forever, long after the source is gone? The case of Burpur makes you wonder if some shadows, once they fall on you, can ever truly be escaped.